"Well," he said, "are you coming?" "Where?" I asked. "Why, to the North Pole, of course. This is the Polar Express." I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me aboard. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nugget centers as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa with thick and rich as melted chocolate balls. Outside, the lights of towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through cold, dark forests where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we would straight the moon, but the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster, we ran along over rolling peaks through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, the hills to snow-covered plains. We crossed the barren desert of ice, the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared in the distance. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on the frozen sea. "There," said the conductor, "there is the North Pole." The North Pole. It was a huge city standing alone at the top of the world, filled with factories everywhere where the Christmas toys were made. At first, we saw no elves. "They are gathering at the center of the city," the conductor told us. "That is where Santa will give the first gift of Christmas." "Who receives the first gift?" we all asked. "He will choose one of you." "Look," shouted one of the children, "it's the elves." Outside, we saw hundreds of elves as our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole. We slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's helpers when the Polar Express could go no farther. We stopped and the conductor led us outside. We pressed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were very excited. They pranced and paced, ringing the silver bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart as Santa Claus appeared. The elves began to cheer wildly. He marched over to us and pointed to me and said, "Let's have this fellow here." He jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up. I sat on Santa's knee and he asked, "Now, what would you like for Christmas?" I knew that I could have any gift I could imagine. But the thing I wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked, Santa smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from one of the reindeer's harnesses. The elf passed it up to Santa. He stood holding the bell up high above him and called out, "The first gift of Christmas." The clock struck midnight as the elves began to roar their approval. Santa handed the bell to me. I put it on my bathrobe, or I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted out the reindeers' names and began to crack his whip. His team charged forward and climbed into the air. Santa circled once above us, then disappeared into the cold, dark polar sky. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I had lost the silver bell from Santa Claus' sleigh. "Let's hurry outside and look," said one of the children, but the train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. It broke my heart to lose that bell. When the train reached my house, I sadly left the other children and stood at my doorway and waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear it. What? I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. Merry Christmas! He shouted. The Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and sped away. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our present. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box. It was behind the tree, and it had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Better fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C. I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." My father said, "Yes, it's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me as it does for all who truly believe. That is the end of our story. And I want you to listen to me real close, okay? Let's follow directions. Most everybody should have a bell. I want you to hold it up. Don't take it. Just hold it up. Everybody with me? I'm going to count to 3. And when I say 3, we're going to say Merry Christmas and shake our bell, okay? I didn't say shake it now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas to those who love you. Hope you have a great year. Great Christmas. Happy New Year.